Do you like spy movies? Do you enjoy somewhat self-aware espionage thrillers? Do you enjoy the movies of Matthew Vaughan? Or do you just like cats? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then there's a very good chance you'll probably enjoy his latest film, ARGYLLE. And if you answered no to all of those questions, then I don't know, maybe stick around. You might enjoy my humour, who knows? Or just, help a guy out, give the video a like and subscribe. But what is the movie about, I hear you ask? Well, let me tell you. Well, to be honest, if you're watching this video, chances are you've probably seen the film anyway. In which case, why are you asking me what it's about? But for those of you that don't know, you haven't seen the movie yet, then let me explain. So the movie follows Ellie Conway, who's played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she is an author who kind of writes these, really popular spy novels based on this character called ARGYLLE. And she has these kind of visions of what ARGYLLE's really like. Like she has these kind of fantasies about, about him and stuff. And he's played by Henry Cavill, so he's very suave and, kind of this big hench guy. And John Cena is his right-hand man. And they have this really cool opening sequence where they're trying to stop Dua Lipa. And it's this very much kind of Looney Tunes meets James Bond kind of sequence. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And I thought it was really fun, that kind of opening. And it turns out she's actually reading kind of a part of her latest book. So flash forward a little bit, she's on this train going to visit her mum because she's kind of struggling with this last chapter of her book. And Sam Rockwell turns up, or rather rocks up. Am I right, guys? Okay, moving on. So then he has this really crazy, intense fight scene with all these guys on the train. Turns out he's actually a real secret agent, a real spy. And she's thrown headfirst into this crazy mission, this crazy world of actual secret agents and espionage and everything. And her pet cat, Alfie, is along for the ride, bless him. He's in one of these bubble backpack things. So poor little sod, he's there whether he wants to be or not. So the whole movie is essentially then them trying to stop this evil organization from capturing this hard drive, which has all these different, secrets. Very kind of cliche stuff, nothing kind of too elaborate there. But what kind of makes the movie interesting is all the twists and turns along the way. Such as the fact that Ellie's not actually really an author. She is kind of this fantasy life that she's been hypnotized into believing is real. Because basically everything that she writes in her ARGYLLE books actually comes true, and to the point where these actual secret agents are reading her books and following along just to see what happens next. So when they're trying to track down these kind of different people across the world, they kind of rely on her books to tell them where they're going to need to be next and what's going to happen next. And it's at first kind of impression, it's like she has this just amazing kind of foresight into that world, but it actually turns out these are all just memories and suppressed memories that she had, because she was actually a secret agent herself back at and she was involved in an accident. She was an explosion, if I remember rightly, and she ends up in a coma. And when she comes to, she's hypnotized into thinking that she's actually just this author. And the villain, who is played by Bryan Cranston, and the mum, whose name is, she's the mum in Home Alone. I can't remember her name. Forgive me. It'll come back to me in a second. And they basically brainwash her into believing that they're her parents. So that's kind of one of the twists anyway. Actually, I'd probably say the main twist. That is the main twist. So as the movie goes along, from there, as I say, it's just kind of meeting all these different characters. As I say, it's really a who's who. Catherine O'Hara, by the way, that was the actress's name. So as I say, the movie is very much just like a who's who of people. As I say, Samuel L. Jackson pops up for his at this point contractually obligated 5-minute cameo. As I say, John Cena's in this, Dua Lipa's in this, Henry Cavill, Sophia Boutella is in this as well. Rob Delaney is in this, very briefly, and it's just a really solid little cast there. Very much a who's who of modern movies and TV stars. So that was really fun. As always with these Matthew Vaughan movies, and I really enjoyed this film actually. I thought it was nothing kind of too. I'd seen some other people saying it was really confusing and kind of wacky and just it was too out there. For me personally, I didn't find that at all. There's definitely twists and turns in it and stuff you don't expect to see coming. But overall, I found this movie a lot of fun. As I said, I really enjoy the Kingsman films. I like the Kick-Ass films that Matthew Vaughan did. So I'm very much a fan of his style. It's this kind of bombastic, kind of violent, kind of humor, kind of like crossover, that he does really well. Where the violence is so over the top, it is like just, it is funny. Very much almost in that kind of Tarantino-esque kind of vein. Like, that's kind of what Matthew Vaughan does. So if you like the Kick-Ass films and the Kingsman movies, especially if you like the Kingsman movies, then you'll, I think you'll enjoy this film. And yeah, I mean, as I say, the whole twist, like it turns out that, as I say, Ellie is not actually an author; she's a secret agent called Rachel, but turns out she's actually like a double agent, and then she's kind of like a double agent, which is another twist as well. And there's this whole thing with like, that she hates cats and stuff. Like when she kind of remembers who she was. Yeah, so she's like, oh, I hate cats, and then there's a lot of like, it's a CGI cat, by the way. So I own 2 cats, so I'm a cat lover. Okay, so so my fellow cat lovers out there, rest assured there is, there's some kind of jokey kind of violence towards Alfie, but it's it's not a real cat, so it's okay. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I did enjoy this film overall. I do think, I mean, I get like the contrast, obviously having like the fantasy world that she's created, where it's like Henry Cavill and John Cena, and then like the real live version where it's her and Sam Rockwell. At times I kind of felt like Sam Rockwell, I mean, he's very funny in this film, and I think he did a good job as like the co-lead. But there were times when, I don't know, it kind of felt a bit flat for me, and I kind of felt I didn't believe him as like a secret agent, but I don't know, it was a bit, I don't think it works like fully for me, if that makes sense. I know I explained that terribly, but in my head it makes sense. And as I say, like, I think the movie maybe goes on a bit too long as well. Would be another negative that I would throw out there. As I say, I mean, the cast, I think, are all solid enough, and they're all great for what they bring to the movie. And yeah, as I say, this is, I had a lot of fun with it. It sets up a sequel, which also has a nice tie into the Kingsman films as well. So I'm very intrigued by how they're going to kind of connect those 2 worlds or those 2 universes together. Especially the fact that Samuel Jackson obviously was the villain in the first Kingsman movie, and in this he's kind of like the M equivalent, I guess, for Sam Rockwell and Bryce Dallas Howard. So yeah, so I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if those characters are going to maybe be real to be twins or something, but I don't know if there is a crossover plan, then they'll need to address that. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just make a joke out of it, because these movies, they're not super serious anyway. Another cool little twist at the end there, just while I remember. So the final scene of the movie very much mirrors the opening kind of sequence where she's reading this chapter, or reading like chapters from her latest book to this crowd of people in this bookstore. And at the end, she's like, "Oh, has anyone got any questions?" And this guy puts his hand up, and it's revealed to be Henry Cavill, but like it actually kind of in that real world, not this fantasy version that she's created in her mind. And he's got like a big mullet and kind of a like a Hawaiian shirt, I think, or something. And he's got like this southern accent, and it's a terrible impression, but he's just like, "Have y'all got a question from me?" Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Not a great impression, I know, but you get the idea. So it's very much like left at this kind of open-ended thing where, because he kind of gives her this kind of like knowing smirk as well, as if to say like, "Oh, I'm going to play a part in your life later on." So if there is a potential sequel, then yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that part develops. So overall, ARGYLLE was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with it, and I was thoroughly entertained. My little nitpicks with that, I would just say that I think maybe it goes on a little bit too long. Some of the extended fight sequences, as I say, which we're kind of used to with Kick-Ass and Kingsman and stuff like that. Again, they maybe could have been trimmed down a bit. There's a bit where like Rachel and Aiden, which is Sam Rockwell's character, they're kind of like doing this like dance sequence, but they're kind of like throwing smoke grenades at these like bad guys and shooting them, and like that's it kind of visually it's very kind of impressive, but it's again goes on a little bit too long, and then kind of you think that's like the main kind of part of that like fight scene, and then like the next scene, Ellie has this like ice skating kind of sequence, and again that is cool, but just goes on a bit too long. So I feel like the ending, definitely could have been trimmed down, maybe a good sort of 5-10 minutes. But all that aside though, I'm going to give ARGYLLE a rating of 3.5 Alfies out of 5. Alright guys, thank you so much for checking this video out. I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. You know the drill by now. Also, I've got some other cool videos on my channel. So maybe, you know, if you get bored, you know, got like an hour to kill, just maybe have a little browse through, see what you can find. You know, you might find some cool shit in there. In fact, you definitely will. But yeah, thank you so much again for watching. You're the best, and have a bloody good day, alright?